This is the Man Up Podcast, a doctor's guide to men's health. Each week on our podcast, we interview the top specialists of the field on various topics in men's health. You have questions that you are too afraid to ask? We have the answers. This week, we have another episode that is part of our new POV series, How It Feels to Undergo a Vasectomy. I'm Dr. Kevin Chu, and I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dr. Justin Dubin. What's up, Justin?
Hey, Kev. I hope you don't hear the ambulance right outside my door, but
Slightly,
that's what
but it's
happens
all
when
right.
you live close to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you live close to the hospital. I'm very excited for this one. Chris is a good friend of mine. We have someone who I know personally for many, many years. And we're talking about vasectomies. Vasectomies are very, very common. About 500,000 vasectomies are performed in the United States every year.
It's a lot.
And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
So a lot of people, a lot of guys, I mean, it's obviously a guy who gets them. And a lot of guys get them. And I feel like no one's talks about it enough. You know, most of the times when we as urologists hear, how did you hear from me or hear about me? It's like, oh, my buddy got one
Right.
and he said it was cool.
Yeah.
So then I just decided to, come to the same guy. But I don't think online there's not much information with regards to the process of getting a vasectomy or the experience of getting a vasectomy. So today we're joined by Chris, and I'm really excited to have him on. Chris, welcome on.
Definitely. I'm excited to be here. Hopefully I can shed some light on the big mystery of this, scary surgery, but it's not that scary.
There we go. I mean, that's right away is the point of this. So yeah,
I mean, that's the first thought that most guys think of, like this is going to be scary. This is going to be nerve wracking, but you know what? Chris is going to shine some light and, make it not seem like that. So let's jump into it. So Chris, what made you first think about getting a vasectomy?
Well, honestly, I guess me and my wife, we talked, we always wanted kids. And then once we had kids, we kind of knew that she never wanted to go back on birth control, and I couldn't blame her. It just, after, years of being with her, I was like, it really messes with your hormones and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, honestly, we're in a good place. I know I'm done having kids. So it was just a matter of talking her into it. And she was just the more she thought about it, she's like, yeah, it kind of makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier for you to get it done than to do anything with me. So it was just like kind of a no-brainer at that point.
Yeah, I agree. And it is actually really nice thing to do for your partner, because a lot like birth control, you got to take it every day, IUDs, you have to have that in. It could be painful to take in and out. There's other medications you can deal with. But at the end of the day, if to do a less than an hour long procedure one time for you and to alleviate all those things for your partners, it's a pretty good deal and it's a pretty considerate thing to do. So I agree with that. So, when you started to think about getting a vasectomy, so you kind of said like you had this conversation with your wife, and what was it more the conversation about having more kids, or was it about, I just want to do this so that you can stop, or it was a combination of both? I mean, because I think a lot of the times it's that decision to not have kids anymore is an interesting conversation to have with your partner, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest thing, well, in my circumstance, I'm, my mid-30s. I have 2 kids under 2 right now, which is more than a handful.
I have 1 kid right now, and I can't even imagine having 2.
I am one man, but I act like I'm 2 years old.
So, and I joked around with my friend about it, but I have 2 kids under 2. I have a boy and a girl. I live in the suburbs. I got a white picket fence. I'm living the American dream. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty like, all right, I think I'm good. I think I hit it. Like, I think all the goals are met. The boxes are checked. I think we're good. And, that was kind of the main factor. And I was just like, I like, since my kids are so young, everything started creeping in. Like, do I want a third kid? But I don't want a third kid immediately. I want to wait a few years because I need some time off. Yeah. And by the time that happens, I'm going to be like 40. And I was like, I don't really want to do this again at 40. So it kind of just felt like, let's just knock this out. Like, I think I'm good.
So that's awesome. So you made the decision. You're going to go forward with the vasectomy. Did you know anyone that had one? Did you talk to anybody about it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's kind of weird, but like when I first got engaged, I was in the Army at the time, like we were talking about. And I was actually stationed with this guy. It was, I guess it had to be years ago. So I actually just got engaged and then obviously like do the Army thing. I left my fiance for 7 months at the time. And I was stationed with this guy, Ed, who, I mean, he was pretty young. He was like 28. And I don't know, the Army, if you've been in the military, I'm sure you guys kind of got the same thing. It's just dark humor and dick jokes. So you feel very good about
yeah, that's literally our whole life. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's just kind of what it was. And then we were just talking about stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm done having kids. I got a vasectomy. Best move I ever made. And I think that really like, put a bug in my head that, oh, this is like an actual real option. Like I don't just like think about, you hear it in sitcoms and movies and whatever, like getting snipped. I was like, people actually do it. And he said, I asked him about it and he's like, it couldn't be easier. He's like, I'm so happy I did it. I have no worries. It's just like a thing off my plate and I just don't even think about it anymore. And I'm like, wow, that's really like, keep that in mind when that comes around. So I think that kind of always stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, and it is important because I think a lot of guys do talk about it with other guys, but the problem is sometimes it just never gets further than that. And it was great that you decided to really take it to the next step, and then so the next step really you talked about it with your wife. You guys were on the same page. Now, did you do any research online about the procedure? Like, did you look into it before you really decided to reach out to a doctor or anything like that?
So, I mean, I'm kind of special case. So I did like, a solid 20 minutes of Googling and I was like, all right, seems fairly simple. And then I was like, wait a second. I grew up with a urologist now. So I'm just calling buddy. Not everyone just has that like phone a friend option, but it's really not. Like, even what I was seeing was not that crazy. And that was the one thing I was really happy talking to you about. Like, I was getting hung up on, like, oh, I want this type of procedure, and I want it this way and that way. And you really kind of opened my eyes. Like, like doctors get comfortable and, like, everything works. Just kind of, like, trust the doctor a little more. And I was like, oh, wow, that kind of makes sense. Because I know if someone came to my job and asked me to totally, change how I did things, I'd kind of be like, all right, guy, like, pump the brakes a little. But no, I really appreciated that aspect of it, hearing from like, professional. And
so you were very fortunate to have Dr. Justin here, but, just for the listeners, what kind of concerns did you have about the vasectomy? Like, what were some of the things that you wanted to ask Justin about?
And he pretty much answered it. One of the big ones, well, I mean, obviously from everything working right, which I was hoping that everything would. It sounds kind of stupid, but like, I was a little worried about my testosterone levels. Because I didn't know how it would affect me.
It's not stupid. It's a real question. We get this question all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And like, and it's, and more like, I mean, obviously I want my sex drive and stuff,
right.
But one of my hobbies, I do like fitness. I do like working out. And I was like, man, I really don't want to like screw that up. I don't want to just be like lazy and slow. I'm still like a relatively young man. I like to keep that going.
We're young. We're very young.
Yeah. So once he said that, like, it really like kind of calmed me down. Like, oh, all right, this really isn't that bad at all. Like, this is kind of doing everything I want.
Dude, Justin, can you agree with me that those are the questions we commonly almost always get when doing consultation for vasectomy? It's always sex drive, testosterone, all the time.
Risk for prostate cancer. All of these things, they do not have any, or they're not impacted at all by getting a vasectomy. And just to follow up on the other question or comment that Chris had before, when we were talking about, no scalpel technique versus, one cut versus two cuts. What's the difference? And realistically, there is no difference. I mean, I think it's a selling point for some people. And this is what I told Chris at the time, however that urologist, if they've done 1,000, whichever way they've done it is going to work.
Right.
Whether you have one cut or two cut, it really doesn't make a difference whether you use a scalpel or don't use a scalpel. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Absolutely. And I don't think there's any reason to specifically search out one technique. I would just talk to a urologist who has done a lot of them. And however that works for them, I would just go that way. And that's what we talked about before. What do you think, Kev? Do you think that's
Yeah, I
statement?
completely agree with you. I think you hit it spot on. So no need to rehash that. So Chris, you made the decision. You want to move forward with a vasectomy. How'd you find your urologist?
Well, first I tried, actually, my wife's gynecologist recommended someone. So I went there first. They were out of network. So I'm not going to pay for this out of pocket. I don't care how good you are.
There's a lot of urologists who do excellent vasectomies. So
yeah. So I was kind of like, all right, well, kind of, just did what every other, I guess, millennial male does. I just Googled vasectomies, went to the highest rating in the area.
That's probably the way I would go too. I think that's the exact way.
Honestly, I would do the same thing.
And that's pretty much it. And it's like, I went there, and I kind of took your advice, met with him, and he even asked the same thing, like, how'd you find me? I was like, straight up, I Googled you. And I was like, he asked me if I have a primary care doctor, and I'm like, no. It's like, if I'm just like a little sick or something, I just go to like your local clinic, like your little minute clinic or whatever. So I don't really have a primary care. I get like yearly checkups at work and go to specialized people who I need. So no, I just kind of found you.
That's interesting. And you actually bring up an interesting point because most men don't have primary care doctors. Mm-hmm. And, it is actually, and I'm glad he asked you that question. I mean, you're fortunate that you do get checkups, with your job, but not many people have that opportunity, and if you are listening and you don't have a primary care doctor, I would totally recommend getting one. Because even if it's once a year or just to get checked up, see how you're doing, get some blood work, there's this thing that doctors say. It's like the patient comes in and I ask them if they have any medical problems and they go, no, I don't have any, but I haven't been to a doctor in 20 years. It's like, okay, you don't have any medical problems because you haven't seen anyone. But like, I look at you and you're morbidly obese and you can't feel your feet. And I know you have diabetes. So, it's a real thing. This happens all the time. So why not get checked up, get a PCP, a primary care doctor. And it's just an important follow-up point there, but I'm glad that he asked you that. So, at the appointment, he basically answered all your questions. You guys talked. Like, what made you decide that day that was the next step? Was there something that clicked or like that felt that was right with this guy? Or you just kind of like it sounded right?
I guess it just sounded right. He pretty much discussed everything that I've already been kind of looking up and hearing. Explain the procedure real quick. Big selling factor that I was going to be completely knocked out under general anesthesia.
Oh, he did under general. That's so everyone, there's different ways to do it, right? So you can do it under general anesthesia where people don't want, like, you can always offer that. And so some people do it under general anesthesia. Some people do it in the office. It's different for everyone. So you like that aspect and some people do like that aspect for sure.
Yeah, I totally like, and it's kind of funny because I've never been under general anesthesia before. And I was just like, you know what? This will be the time I'll try it out. I don't really want to do it.
All right. Okay. So, that's a great point, right, Kev? Like, I know that I've done vasectomies under general anesthesia. I've done it while they're awake. And I think a lot of that is patient preference. And I think that it's important when you're talking with your doctor about getting a vasectomy, if you're nervous and you say, hey, doc, listen, I don't like, how do you do this? Like, I don't really want to be awake. They should be more than happy to accommodate. Or if you say, I don't want to do under general anesthesia, oftentimes there also should be able to accommodate. Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances. Some people on exam may have a harder time, may just have a difficult exam to kind of grab the vas deferens, which is that highway that connects, your testicle to the outside world that we cut on each side. And sometimes it requires some general anesthesia as well. So it does depend on the situation, but there is often patient preference.
Yeah, I mean, like that just stresses the importance of, you meet with your doc, your urologist, and you really just have a conversation and you express everything that you have. You can state like, hey, look, I'm really nervous about this procedure. I think maybe general anesthesia. The urologist will have many things to offer from their own point of perspective too. And, if that's a lot of times that makes you comfortable enough to do it in clinic, which, I will say a majority of urologists do all of them in the clinic. And, it's totally dependent on how that conversation goes. But again, most of the time, urologists are able to accommodate for that. So yeah, I agree, Justin.
All right. So the day finally comes, Chris. What's going through your head in the preoperative area? Like, what are you thinking? You're feeling good? You're feeling loose? You ready to go?
Yeah, honestly, I'll say leading up to it, with the few weeks I had, I guess it was like 2 months maybe leading up to it, I was not nervous at all. Like totally, I was like, this is what I'm doing, confident.
Okay.
It was like literally 48 hours before, I was like, oh my God, I'm really going to go for surgery. I get surgery on my testicles, basically. So, all right, let's see what happens. So I definitely started getting nerves there, and more just like worried about pain. I guess that was my biggest nerve. Like,
right. I think that's reasonable.
What kind of pain am I putting myself in? So that was like I still wanted the end result, but I was just nervous about pain.
Yeah.
Oh. All right then. So so procedure happens. I'm sure you just kind of wake up from it, and are you feeling pain? Are you feeling any of that afterwards?
No, honestly, I'd say like immediately afterwards, didn't really notice anything. I just kind of woke up with a jock strap on.
Yeah.
And I felt pretty okay. The doctor was kind of just like, you're going to be sore for, he's like 2 weeks. Just take it very easy. Don't lift anything.
Yeah.
It's like, take it easy as possible. I was still kind of nervous. I was like I trying to just gauge what kind of pain I would be in. And he was like, you could go to work if your job is very much like an office job, sit behind a computer. But he's like, if you have to walk around, lift things, do things, he's like, really try to take some days off, take it easy. So I went home. Obviously, I wasn't really going to go to work after I've just had surgery. So
right.
Went home, just kind of took it easy. It didn't really feel anything there, I guess, because I was still pretty numb. And then I'll say the next 2 days, I was like the most sore. Like, just, there's no other way to describe it other than someone punched me in the groin a day prior. And you just have like that residual soreness.
Yeah,
it's not like, it was one good thing, I guess, relieving. It wasn't like completely debilitating. Like I could walk around, I can cook dinner for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't have to just lay there and not move.
right.
But it still was like enough to just be like, I don't really feel like doing much. So
right. Scale 1 to 10, 10 being worst pain. Where would you put it?
Really not that bad. Honestly, like a 3 or 4. Just like a little nagging,
nice.
Kind of.
Yeah. And did you take any medicine for it, like pain medicine or anything?
So they gave me Tylenol with codeine, and honestly, I would have thought regular Tylenol would have done the same thing. It didn't do much other than kind of help with like your clothes rubbing against your stitches. That was about the only thing kind of helped with that irritation. But like the other soreness, it kind of didn't do much for me. So it's just like, all right, this is what it is for a couple of days.
Yeah, and you iced? Did you ice yourself?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I'm hoping it helped. I don't know. It just felt kind of more or less. It honestly just took 2 days for like 2 or 3 days for the soreness to go away. And
typically that's it. Yeah, typically after 2-3 days, it starts getting better, right? Like, I mean, you felt pretty good.
Totally. Like, so I pretty much, I knew work was actually slowing down too, so it wasn't that bad. So I only really took, I think, 2 days off of work, the day of the surgery and the day after off of work. And then the following, I went to work. I just told, everyone knew what I was doing at work because I'm pretty close with all my coworkers.
Right. That's awesome.
So it's just like, I'm going to be taking it easy a little bit, guys. You might have to like grab some stuff for me or whatever. I don't have the most physically demanding job. There are some like walking around.
Right.
But it was cool. I just kind of.
Did you ever look down at your balls? Like, do they look fine? They look the same? I mean, guys ask me that all the time.
Question. Yeah.
It was. Oh, you talking about the guys at work looking over?
No.
No. Did you ever, like, when you looked, what did your balls look like? Did they look the same? Hopefully you're not showing everyone.
I mean, you guys are close, right?
I didn't know you were that close with your work friends, man.
I got a few of them that would ask. But no, it's just I looked at it. As soon as I got home, I was like, let's see what's going on down here. But it looked fine. There's just like maybe a half an inch, like line of stitches. That's about it.
Yeah.
And
did you have one incision in the middle or 2 incisions?
One incision right down the middle.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Just
all right. So it sounds like it doesn't look that didn't look any different, right? I mean,
no,
at the end of the
really
day,
didn't.
we say as urologists, the scrotum is the most forgiving organ. You can cut that thing up and because it's got all the wrinkles, it
still look like a scrotum. Yeah.
Still looks like a little skin brain down there. All right. So how far out are you out from your vasectomy right now, Chris?
I guess it's right around coming up on 4 weeks right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
So when did they tell you to give you're going to give a sample? So like when are you going to provide a sample for that?
So the first, he kind of wants 2 samples. I guess like
right.
Different doctors want different stuff. But first one, he really just said after you do 25 ejaculations to give me a sample, and we'll see how it goes from there. So once I do that, we'll see how it goes. So I'm pretty close, and I'm probably going to do a few extra just to make sure.
Put a few extra.
little extra credit, I guess.
But
that's awesome. Yeah, dude, absolutely. Just clear it out.
Get those bonus points, dude.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we ask, that's correct. It's either whatever comes first, that or time frame, can be 2 or 3 months, whichever one comes first, no pun intended. Yeah, and the goal is to, sometimes sperm in the area after we cut that highway, which is the vas deferens, sperm can still be stuck in the part that we already had cut.
Right.
So you don't want to, you're not sterile right away. And we talked about that. And I'm sure he brought that up because that's kind of where you get burned as a guy. Like the only time I've really seen people get burned after getting a vasectomy is, they like didn't use protection despite us telling them that like, you're not sterile yet. And that's where I've heard of pregnancies. But yeah, I mean, once you do it, you should be good. It's like 99% success rate. So,
and for our listeners out there, there's another plug is that, generally the first week after a vasectomy, you shouldn't really ejaculate during that time period. But then after that, it's okay.
Right.
Then you start just, pumping them out, do as many as you need to. And, but yeah, these things work. Vasectomies work up to about 99%, but it's just important. Like Justin said, you got to consider yourself still fertile during that time period until we get these post-procedural semen analyses that show that you're shooting blanks essentially. So.
And you already gave us some numbers that you're performing, but no issues. Like just to confirm that what the myths are, no issues with erections or orgasms or anything. You don't have to answer, but you could give me like a wink or something if you want.
No, I mean, no. There's like completely everything's fine. Feels like exactly the same. Would never have noticed the difference. Like
right,
it's just.
Yeah, and the volume's the same, right? Like people want to know, like
they do.
Yeah, everything looks the same. It's like the same amount, same. Still got 30 seconds in there.
That a vasectomy can't change.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is great. I think like we've kind of like got one final question, having gone through this whole process, what do you think you would tell guys who want to get a vasectomy or who are a little nervous about going to the doctor to talk about it?
I don't know. Just definitely say don't feel nervous about it. It's a lot more routine than you think. I think just mainly a lot of people think it's just, and they also probably think it's mainly for old people for some reason. Maybe they have that like stuck in their head because I feel like I kind of have that in the back of my head. But no, you can get one whenever you want, whenever you feel comfortable. Like you're done procreating. Why waste time and like doing other stuff? I
mean, on that point, there was a patient that came in a couple weeks ago, 23 years old, just never wanted to have kids, just ever. And so
yeah, and we do it, and we'll do it. You even if you don't have kids and you don't want to have kids, we're happy to do a vasectomy. It's your body, you're right. There's no judgment here. I actually remember talking to a patient a couple months ago who was in his mid-30s and said he never wanted to have kids. And I said, then why did you wait so long to get a vasectomy? He said he was worried that people would judge him for getting a vasectomy. Yep. And I told him, I said, listen, you could have come in here, 5, 6, 7 years ago. As long as you're, of legal age, we will respect your right to do that. So yeah, I think what you're saying is 100% correct. And we really appreciate that statement. I don't know, Kevin, you got any other questions?
No, I think, Chris, you did a fabulous job answering these questions. I think our listeners are really going to benefit. I think this episode paired with another episode earlier that we put out with Dr. Patel, which kind of gives a little bit more of an overview of the vasectomy from the doctor's, instructional perspective. I think this is going to be really, a whole package for our listeners to be able to really understand the experience and hopefully not be afraid about going through it themselves.
Yeah. So, Chris, you rule. Thank you so much for coming on and talking so candidly, because I guess I'm going to use, it takes a lot of balls to do.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You're waiting for that.
This takes a lot of balls, man. So we appreciate it. And as for our listeners, thank you as always for listening. You can listen to all of our episodes on any podcasting platform, including Spotify and iTunes. If you do listen to us on iTunes, please download, subscribe, give us a review, 5 stars. That's always appreciated. You can watch this video as well as our other episodes that we record also on video on our YouTube channel. It's always appreciated if you guys could subscribe and like and comment on our videos there. We also have our Man Up Pod TikTok, Instagrams, and you can reach out to Kevin or I on our personal social media accounts, Justin Dubin MD and Kevin Chu MD. For Chris, Kevin, and I, thanks for listening. Until next time, have a good one, guys.